hard.
Okay. I've just started the recording, so, all right, so let's see, attendees. So who joined us on the telephone just now?
Jeff Ledoux.
Hello, Jeff Ledoux. How are you?
Oh, I guess I'm doing all right.
I think so too.
Hi, Jeff. Hello.
This could be good. We could have a small group tonight. That would be nice. That would be very nice.
I don't know. That puts the pressure on the rest of us then. Those of us who like to blend into the background.
Certainly takes the pressure off of me when it's a small group, I'll tell you.
I'm sure it does, yeah.
I spent an hour and a half talking to a guy this morning and then another 45 minutes talking to one of the directors of Us Two, who's got a switch off of, he's looking for somebody to take over from Snuffy.
Take over from who?
Snuffy.
Oh, yeah? He's getting out of the business, huh?
Yep. He is. So I gave him a few ideas. And I also asked him, how come we don't get included in any of the Us Two group leaders meetings? And we don't even get their mailings, nothing. I guess because they don't send us anything, you know, because we're virtual, we don't make the mailing list.
Right.
Oh, here, there we go. All right, well, we'll forgive you, Bill. That's okay.
It looks like he might have his microphone working again. At least he's trying.
He says his tablet's mic isn't working. There's another message. We got you.
Ooh.
That could be Bill. Was that you or Bill?
I think it was Bill.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Peter Kafka's here. All right. We got a quorum.
Hey, Peter. You probably can't hear us yet.
He may not be with us yet. Stragglers today.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, you got people coming over for Easter Sunday, Jake?
Yeah. Both of my boys with their significant others, a friend of Paula's and her mother. So we're gonna have a full house.
Okay, what's for lunch?
That's what she's doing. She's doing lunch. So it's going to be like eggs and bacon and right. not the traditional Easter meal.
Okay.
Well, that'll be nice.
All right.
How about you?
No, I don't do Easter, but I went to a Seder night last night. That'll take care of me for a while. So.
Well, yeah, that's right. We're bringing over we're inviting a Jewish young lady.
Oh, right.
She's having Easter dinner with us.
Well, there you go.
So,
Easter dinner, Easter brunch, I think, is what we're doing.
Easter brunch, yeah.
Easter brunch. Oh, I see what Mr. Franklin's done. He's using.
I'm using my wife's computer now.
He's using someone else's computer. Okay. Well, listen, it's very good, Bill, because we don't have many people. We need the numbers, and you show up twice.
Yeah, you can just tell people my wife was here.
That's right. That's right. Peter, are you with us?
Yeah, yes, I am, but my webcam doesn't seem to be working.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. But that's okay.
Yeah, I just see a blank I just
Yeah,
see
me too. I wonder why. Never mind. Maybe if you restart it. Let's see. No, no. Who knows?
You were having problems last night too, Peter. Your voice kept breaking. Your video was okay, but your voice kept breaking up.
yes. Everybody,
There you are.
Ah, now
everybody
we
Yeah, I
else's
see ya.
voice.
now we see you.
That's
And
that's because of they use this cheap
Cheap what?
whatever it is, we just lost you again on it, Peter. So however cheap it wasn't giving you a good audio. But
It might have something to do with 5,000 miles too.
yeah, it could be. That might have something to do with it. I think that probably the problem is that Peter's internet connection is not the best.
Wow.
So, wait till I move.
that could be. That could be. That could be.
Yeah. I think
It could be my Tandy Radio Shack computer.
that belongs in the Smithsonian, Peter.
Yeah, for real.
That could have a value, man. Well, look, I mean, I think we were 308. I think we're just going to have a small group. We've got Bill and Jeff, Peter, Jake, and myself, right?
That's what I see.
No, I see Bill Franklin, Jeff Dew, Misa Franklin.
Well, that's
Yeah, Bill is using his wife's computer.
I got my
Misa
tablet
is
on
his wife.
but then I jumped on my wife's computer while she's out of the room.
okay. So we're in good shape. So I think what we'll do is we'll get started, and probably there's going to be some late stragglers, and we'll enjoy having a small group tonight, which can be a pleasure. So let me just.
I have a question, Rick.
Okay, so let me just run through and see who I know. So we definitely got a question for Bill. Peter, you want to talk about your genetic results?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I can speak about that.
And Jake, what have you got to? What can you come up with tonight?
Well, there's the USPTF. I always forget the acronym.
Right.
Has come out with new recommendations on PSA.
Right.
Apparently, they did modify
Right.
it slightly, but they're asking for more comments.
Right. So I've got that on my screen. We can talk about that. I can show it on my screen.
Okay.
And Jeff, you've got an appointment tomorrow, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So we can talk about what you're going to cover in your appointment.
We can do that, and we can also talk about what I found out yesterday and in the past week's stuff.
Okay. So why don't let's kick off with Bill Franklin, since he was the first to join, and he's had such trouble getting a proper connection. We're going to give him the honor of starting us off with this question.
Well, my question was going to be that where on the ANCAN website is the calendar for the calls, but I found it while you guys were talking. So I will make another comment, though.
That's a softball. That's a softball question. We don't count that as a question.
So, Rick, I don't know if you recall that a while ago, several months ago, I put a friend of mine in touch with you who lives in Japan.
What was the name?
Rich Chukre. You guys exchanged a couple of emails, and I was on a couple of them. But
Yeah.
he kind of faded into the background.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he contacted me about a month ago, and he long story short, his long-term prostate problem, which doctors never thought it was prostate cancer because his PSA went up and down, and he was treated for BPH and seemed to respond, but so he was diagnosed with prostate cancer after a biopsy. Two out of 16 cores came back with a Gleason 6 and a Gleason 7. So he's I told him, of course, I told him all about the calls and everything, and I told him about the low intermediate risk calls. And I don't know when the last one was, but I told him about it in plenty of time. Last night? Yeah, so I thought so. I haven't heard back from him. I asked him if he'd gotten on it or not. He didn't answer, so.
What is his, I don't see him in my list anywhere. And the weird thing is I don't even remember that. What's his email?
It's a Gmail, I know that. Hold on a second. It always fills in automatically when I start typing his name.
I know.
I don't remember.
How did he spell his last name?
It's Chuck Ray. Chuck?
Yep.
And then R-E-Y.
Oh, Chuck Ray.
Yeah, so his email is chuckray@gmail.com.
Yeah, I do not remember that at all. That's really weird because I'm pretty good on that stuff.
Yeah, you guys actually exchanged some emails. I was in the chain.
Is he being tested?
Go ahead,
Peter.
Is he being tested and treated in Japan? Is he being tested and treated in Japan?
Yeah, so the PSA was 7 point something, above 7.5. I can't remember the exact number. And the biopsy was in Japan. And he has not decided on any, treatment path yet. I told him, don't get overly excited. Don't go run into surgery and get your prostate ripped out right away. So he's doing a lot of research and everything. He's considering coming back here. We were actually in the Air Force together, but we also happen to be from the same area in Florida. So,
Well, a couple of things. One is that the treatment in Japan, from what I can gather, is actually pretty good if you go to the good hospitals.
yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is I definitely think he should participate in Peter's call. And Peter, did you make a note of his email?
I did. I've got it.
Okay.
I'll put him on.
Right.
chuckray@gmail.com.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Feel free to send him an invite to the meetings. I think he'd appreciate it.
his first name is Richard?
Yeah, Richard. He goes by Rich. Oh.
Rich Chuck Ray. What does anybody know what the time difference is to?
They are right now. I think they're 13 hours ahead of us.
Okay.
So getting on the call he'd have to be doing it like the following morning.
Right.
Like on a Tuesday morning.
Right. So Peter's call that normally starts at at 5 o'clock, or let's say 8 o'clock your time, for him would be probably 9 o'clock in the morning. For him. So
9 a.m. the next morning.
Right. Okay, well, sure, we'd be happy to help him any way we can. And
Are they ahead of us or behind us?
ahead.
So then he would call. To get Peter's call, they would have to. They would.
Oh, they're
I'm
the
thinking
other
they would
side of the
call.
date line.
Yeah.
They're the other date line.
Right.
So would he call Sunday or Tuesday?
He'd call Tuesday morning
Tuesday morning.
Okay.
or a Monday evening conference call.
Right.
Yeah, I gave him all the times, and of course,
Okay.
I'm sure he can figure out the time zones. He's a pretty smart guy.
Okay, great. No, it's just He's just like the Aussies that call in, except he's a little bit earlier than the Aussies. He's not
Right.
quite as far east. So, okay. And what about for you, Mr. Franklin? What can we talk about for you today?
I'm good. I just had my PSA checked. It was undetectable, and
Great.
according to my doctor, I've only got 3 more months of Lupron.
Great.
And he did a testosterone check to get a baseline right now, but when his lab technician called me, she didn't have a testosterone score on the chart. So I don't know. He ordered it. He said he was ordering it. When the lab tech came in and took my blood, she said she was going to do testosterone and PSA, and then she called back and only gave me a PSA. So he said she could do testosterone again with the blood that they still have. So
Okay. Well, that's great. I mean, hopefully it's going to be less than 20. That's probably what it should be. Certainly,
yeah, I'm assuming.
yeah, certainly less than 50. So that's good news. And how much did you say? Another 3 months? Just another 3 months after this?
Yeah.
So,
We
okay.
just had the last shot April on Monday, whatever that was, the 5th, I guess.
Okay.
It was a 3-month shot. So
Okay, so that'll give you 6 months in total. And how long will that give you for the whole period?
it'll be just over 19 months.
Right. You know, I was talking to a guy about that today, this morning, one of the calls that I had, and I told him that, you know, if it were me, I would want to do at least 18 months. But some very, very reputable urologist locally told him he might get away with 6 months. I actually think he wasn't really doing his homework. But so,
Yeah, I was actually at the house of another friend of ours, actually the husband of my wife's friend, who had prostate cancer 7 years ago, and his PSA started rising again last summer,
right.
and so he went on Lupron and he had radiation treatment. We were at his house and there was a bunch of people there, and his radiation oncologist was there, and we were talking, and his radiation oncologist said, "Oh, I'd keep you on for at least 2 years." And I joked that I'm glad you're not my radiation oncologist.
Well, that's right. You know, because today we seem to know that you don't need to do more than 18 months. At least that seems to be the indicator. But I think, you know, some people will work with less than 18 months. And I know that if you've got highly aggressive disease, it's better to err on the longer than the shorter period of time. And yeah, it's tough. We all know how tough it is on this call. But it's worth putting the time in early on in my thought to you know, for the opportunity that some of us get, and this guy might get, and you might get, of getting a full and durable remission. And you know, I got. So I do think it's worthwhile. It always bothers me when men with 8s, 9s, and 10s who are doing radiation up front are talking about 6 to 9 months of hormone therapy.
Correct.
Right.
I just don't think that I don't think it's valid, you know. So
This guy was I almost went to this guy because he was recommended by the person whose house I was at, and but my current genitourinary radiation oncologist was recommended by another doctor friend of ours, and I ended up going with him. So.
Well, you know, if your buddy wants to talk to us, he's always welcome.
Yeah, I'll send him another email. I'm waiting for a response from him. I emailed him this morning, so he's probably read it already, and I'll see if he responds.
Okay. Let me welcome a couple of new people. Paul Frieda. How you doing?
Okay.
Anything you'd like to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I had something, but I forgot to write it down. If I remember it, I'll bring it up, or we do it. I could do it next time.
We'll check in with you again before the end of the call. But it's a
Okay,
good call. We don't have too many people, which is a pleasure, and we have therefore got plenty of time to talk to you. Oh, look.
Okay, great.
Oh, wait a minute. Do I see Mr. Franklin is growing something there? This is new. This is new. Okay. All right. We like this.
My wife does not like this.
Oh, she doesn't, huh? Okay. Well, I'm staying out of it then. Especially since you're using her computer, I'm not getting involved.
Right.
And we have somebody else calling. I don't know who it is, but if they'd like to identify themselves, they're very welcome. Somebody else calling on the telephone who hasn't identified themselves?
Yeah, Rick, it's Dennis Correa.
Hello, Dennis Correa.
Hey,
How hot is it in Tucson, man?
today I think it might get to 90, but
Okay.
it's a dry heat.
I think my stuff is coming down to 2 back at the end of the month. I'm working, and that's one of the things I'm working on right now.
Well, let me know when you're going to be here.
I'll let you know. You better.
We got to get together.
You better believe it. We've got to find a spot to break bread.
Okay.
Okay. Dennis, do you have anything you'd like to speak about today?
No, nothing.
Okay, we've got plenty of time, not a lot of people, so you're very welcome. Okay, so next, let's throw it out to Peter, because Peter has, I think what Peter's news is very interesting news it's worth commenting on, and Peter, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay. I've got two things. One is a minor thing that I just want to bring up initially. I had some minor surgery removing a benign lipoma tumor on my neck a couple of weeks ago, and I guess when they do this surgery, there's some nerve damage, and I'm dealing with that now that most of the swelling is down. And I was speaking to some breast cancer survivors in my group here on Maui the other night, and they nodded agreement, because above my left breast it's very sensitive. Like I can't wear my car seat over my shoulder. I have to wear it under my arm on that side. It's just super sensitive to the touch, and I have to try to keep my shirt open a little bit, so anything that rubs on it is extremely painful. And every once in a while I get pains, and all the women kind of nodded their head because I kind of sensed that it was breast cancer surgery. And they said, yes, they go through that, and it lasts about 3 months, where they've got this nerve damage on the surface, and it just takes a while for it to restore. I'm going to talk to my doctor tomorrow about it when I have a follow-up appointment, but it's just an interesting thing. I've never felt this before. So that's just a small thing I just want to get off my, I just wanted to put on my chest. I can't get it off my chest. Okay. The other one that Rick asked me to speak about a little bit is genetic testing for germline mutations. I had tried to do this last year with at my oncologist down in Marina Del Rey, Dr. Turner. He did a blood test then and sent it off to Myriad Labs in Salt Lake City, and they wouldn't do the test because they didn't think it was going to meet the criteria with for payment from Medicare or my other insurance. So it kind of floundered, and I was on the phone trying to follow up with them, and I just couldn't make a case. And my initial case was that my father died of aggressive prostate cancer that had metastasized to his bone already. He died within 3 years of diagnosis, a pretty miserable death. But I did not know, his Gleason score or anything about it, because I was naive at that point, and this was some years ago, so I didn't have the statistics. All I knew is it was aggressive. And then I have at least a 9 aggressive case. It's non-metastatic right now to my knowledge, but I have an aggressive case. And I've filled out all the details of my father's family history and my mother's family history, and who had colon cancer, and who had breast cancer, and this and that. And I went, a month ago, I went to get a genetic counselor at UCSF, and they were extremely accommodating. I told them I would only be in San Francisco for 1 day, and they said, oh, okay, we'll make an appointment that day for you. So I went over to the Mount Zion operation and had an appointment with a geneticist. I don't know what she is there. She's a genetic counselor, I guess. They're not MDs, they're genetic counselors. And she was very thorough and explained everything, and she felt that she could easily make a case for me. And this time we didn't do blood, we did a saliva test. And it was sent off to another different lab called Ambry that UCSF works for, AMBRY. And I don't know where they are. And I had a follow-up phone consultation yesterday, a month later, with her, because the results came back. I don't have the results in paper form yet. They're mailing them out to me, but I went over it with her. And my initial need for this was because I have 2 sons, both in their early to mid-40s. And I was concerned about, whether I was passing something down to them that they needed to be super concerned about, because their grandfather and now me have aggressive prostate cancer. For sure I've told them over the last couple of years to get tested and get their labs done and stuff, PSA checked regularly. I don't know if they're doing this. I know my younger son who lives with me here is doing it, but I'm not sure about my older son in Canada. Anyway, so I just wanted to see if there was a gene mutation that was responsible for this this deal. So I sent it away, and I got the results back yesterday, and the results came back that they were a little bit surprised because they didn't see the usually common mutation like in BRCA1, BRCA2, which is often associated with prostate cancer. Instead, they found a mutation in what's called the MSH6 gene. And she was surprised because she said this one's normally associated with a higher incidence of colorectal cancer and some of the other digestive type of cancers in the gut, stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, and so forth. And she said there is some evidence. They've noticed some evidence that there is an association with prostate cancer, but it doesn't seem to be a big line between them, and they're still investigating it, but it's a little bit of a head scratcher for her. What you want, the main thing is, she said, I've got a 45% risk of colon cancer, and I need to, instead of every 10 years getting a colonoscopy, I should go for every year getting it checked. So that was a bigger concern to them than the prostate cancer, although she did suggest I try to get my sons and see what they have, and that might be a good idea, just to so they don't have a burden on their shoulders of wondering and guessing. So I'll see if I can encourage them to get tested. But that's was kind of a surprise result. And, Rick sent me some information. I haven't really researched it much. I haven't had much time to research anything, and I sent an email to Dr. Bill over in Buffalo, and got a response from him, and he kind of backed up what the genetic counselor had said. So we will see. We'll see where this leads. It's interesting to go ahead and get this done. I'm glad I did it. It's germline stuff, and it's good to know that, yes, I do have a a gene mutation.
So, just,
Anybody have any questions?
yeah,
Anybody have anything yet? Anybody?
I want to make a couple of comments, Peter, and then we'll throw it open. One is that there is a known pattern between prostate cancer and Lynch syndrome, but it's nowhere near as significant as for diseases like stomach and colon and esophageal. And in fact, Trevor Lynch, God rest his soul, Lynch, not Lynch, I've lost it. I've got Lynch syndrome on my mind. But Trevor, God rest his soul, he had a aberration in MLH1, which is a Lynch syndrome, and his parents had, or his father had colon cancer, but he had very, very aggressive prostate cancer. And one of the good news about that is the fact that it is responsive to some of the new drugs. So you know, it's obviously bad news that you got it, and we tried to give Trevor Doherty Keytruda, but it just happened too late because we found out about it too late. If you Google Lynch syndrome and prostate cancer, there's over 200,000 links that come up. And I actually sent Peter one study which is well above my pay grade, but I think Bill Burhand would understand it, which the title of the article is Elevated Risk of Prostate Cancer Among Men with Lynch Syndrome. So this is not something that's unknown. And I think that the take-home message for anybody on this call, or anybody who listens into the call subsequently, is that if you seem to have a history, if you think you've got a history of the cancers that are common to Lynch syndrome, namely colon, stomach, you can Google Lynch syndrome and you can read about it, then it's probably worth getting a genetic test. I mean, I have a good buddy that I row with almost every day, train with, who has a lot of cancer in his family, mostly colorectal. He just got tested. He actually does have risk for Lynch syndrome, and it just changes the way that you do your screening. So whilst Lynch syndrome isn't something that you would normally want to screen for when you have prostate cancer, it doesn't hurt because it may show something. The other thing I wanted to mention to you right now, just before I throw it open, is that I put a link in the window, but I'm going to try this screen sharing thing here and show you. We are going to be putting on a web talk. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Share monitor 1. Let's see. Start sharing my screen. Okay, that should work. So it may take a minute, and I know it's going to be hard to read because of the typeface that she uses. But we're going to be doing a web talk on May the 10th through Cure Talks. It's not going to be prostate cancer specific, but it is going to be about identifying targeted cancer treatments through genomic testing. We're going to talk a little bit about genetic testing first of all and try and make sure everybody understands the difference between genetic and genomic testing. It'll be available afterwards online. We've got a really good panel. I'm going to moderate, but Bill Burhans is going to be on that panel. We've got a couple of people from Foundation Medicine. We've got another patient who's also a doctor, but a medical doctor. And we've got a medical oncologist, and then we've also got Mike Scott from Prostate Cancer International, who has a slightly different view on this testing, which bothers the Foundation Medicine people, but I feel it's important that we talk about all sides of it. So I'll let people know about this closer to the time, but I just wanted to take the opportunity of mentioning that this will be coming up on May the 10th. So let me throw it out to anybody that might have some questions to Peter on this genetic testing. Anyone? Okay.
Well, the question I had
I might mention.
at the beginning, you mentioned that the cost for the testing was declined by Medicare. Is that true?
And initially, when I did it through my oncologist, the lab they sent it to didn't feel I had enough history in my family to merit. Medicare has a very strict, you know how Medicare, the government works. They had a very strict criteria, and you had to have so many members with so many incidents of this cancer and that cancer or whatever, and at that point they wouldn't take it. But
even though your father died from prostate cancer.
Correct. I probably could have paid for it, but I didn't do it. So UCSF has a whole genetic counseling session, and, you know, cancer-related genetic department, and they kind of go to bat for you. So when I went to them, they felt there was no problem. They get it through, and they did. I had to pay them, I think, $190 out of pocket, but that might get reimbursed. I think, you know, once that was just for the session when I first initially went, but that might get reimbursed. But I don't think that might not be covered by my insurance. But the testing itself is. I might also mention that the gene I have a defect in is not the only one that triggers Lynch syndrome. It was like, I did a cursory search yesterday on the internet. They listed about 6 or 7 of them, and mine was kind of in the middle of the pack, and it's also even not a common one for Lynch syndrome, but it's common enough to indicate that there's a 45% risk. But they've got this pretty figured out. How much information and statistics and stuff there is on genetic testing. You know, it's a burgeoning field, I guess.
Yeah, you know, it's disappointing that Peter got turned down by the initially, and I think you could make an argument, especially today, that with somebody passing from an immediate family member passing, that you should be genetic tested. I think it just depends who's making the argument. But the test is not that expensive overall, and if you think that there's any likelihood, then I think it's certainly worth doing. So. Okay. Any other questions for Peter on this subject?
Not a question, but just a comment.
Yes.
I had the same germline testing done because we talked about it in this group. So yeah, mine came back negative on everything.
Okay.
But I still have prostate cancer. So.
Right.
How's that work? I don't know. But anyway, I would recommend it if you can get it. I have TRICARE, retired military. They paid for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I think I paid $36 out of pocket, and that was for a couple different, some co-pays, you know, visiting the hospital, the Moffitt Cancer Center that did all the, that did everything for me. So, yeah, if you can get it done, especially if insurance is going to pay for it, just do it.
I will say that the genetic testing doesn't test for a whole lot of different genes. So it's very focused, and you know, the hereditary genes that we know impact prostate cancer, and even then not for that many people, are usually in the BRCA pathway, the BRCA pathway. And so the fact that nothing showed just means that from the level of our knowledge today, it's not likely that it's been passed through to you. But there again, what we do know is that if you have it, then you're likely to pass it on to your offspring. I guess we just don't know what genes to look for. We don't know what the mutations are that come through, or they're not being tested in the genetic test, more likely. So, you know, that's, but the person really to answer that question in greater detail, it's a very good question, but the question to answer it in more detail, could give you a much better answer, would be Bill. I mean, he could tell you why people that pass prostate cancer from one to the next, why nothing shows up in the genetic test, and my guess is it's related to the fact that they're just not testing for it, and they should be. So, so let's move on. Jeff Ledoux.
I'm right here.
Okay.
All right, I did get my hereditary genetic testing back. I don't have any. I can't blame my father anymore.
Okay. Okay.
So I did have one variant of unknown significance, and that's the RAD51D. And they don't know what significance that has with regard to prostate cancer, but they're going to keep looking around. So that's the first thing.
So hold on.
Second,
let me stop you right there. I think what you said
okay.
is you got your genetic testing back. Now,
Yeah.
Was this the genetic test or the genomic test? Because there's a big difference.
This was the hereditary. Let me see exactly what she said.
It was the hereditary.
Yeah, it's the hereditary.
Okay. The genetic test.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
okay.
and that was done by Ambry Labs. It didn't cost me a thing. So they were very accommodating to me.
Okay.
All right. The second thing was I had the ARV7 run. I didn't have enough circulating tumor cells for them to do the test.
Right.
So that was, I guess, good news.
Yep.
And then tomorrow I'm meeting with Christian, and things I'm going to ask him about is, first of all, where do we go from here? Do we keep on with Cassidex? Because, oh, yeah, yesterday I had PSA run. PSA has come down from 2.22 to 2.1. Not a big drop, but something. The testosterone came back, undetectable. Whereas last month it was detectable.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I guess, is good news.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I'm asking, and we'll get a better bit of information about the CT scan and the bone scan that I had run yesterday. I looked at the bone scan, and it looks somewhat different from what I saw back in December. And it looks like it may be in a positive direction, but I'm not a radiologist. I can't read it, but just looking at the two, I think it looks different. So we'll find out more tomorrow. Same thing with her CT scan. I guess I want to know, before we start getting into bone pain, do we go ahead and do the Xofigo? I don't know. That's the question.
So just a couple of things. I mean, there's no, are you asking him about whether you should be stopping hormone therapy right now, or is that, or not?
No.
No, okay, good, because I wouldn't either if it were me, but I just want to make sure that wasn't something that was on the table for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Xofigo's a tough one. I mean, the first thing about Xofigo, how long ago did you do your docetaxel?
That was in 2014.
Okay. And how
It
are,
was go ahead.
how are your blood counts?
I can tell you, because I had them done yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. What in particular?
CBC.
CBC?
Yeah, your white, your red, and your hemoglobin.
Okay. Hemoglobin and hematocrit. 11.4 on the hemoglobin. Hematocrit is 35. So they're a little bit low.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what about your platelets?
Let me turn the page. They were very forthcoming for me yesterday when I was at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Platelet count 237.
Well, that's great.
Which is almost in the middle.
Yeah, that's terrific. And what about your white and your red?
White blood count 5.6. That's not high or low. It's about in the middle. The RBCs 3.89. Just a shade low.
Shade low. So, you know, the big issue I think with Xofigo is the downside that it can cause what's known as myelosuppression.
Right.
Which means, for those of you on the call who aren't familiar with that term, that it basically stops your bone marrow working properly, and it can cause your blood counts to fall, and you finish up needing infusions and what have you. The second thing to bear in mind is that I would guess, and this is just, I'm speaking off the top of my head, but this is just my gut feel, that within 12 to 24 months, we're going to see lutetium as an option in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit of the lutetium treatment is that it's PSMA guided as opposed to bone or calcium guided. So these radionuclides, these little radioactive, whatever they are, that are injected into you, are attracted to cells that express PSMA. And PSMA stands for prostate-specific membrane antigen. And whilst they're not only on prostate cells, they are mostly on prostate cells, and it's some sort of antigen that's expressed on the surface of the cell. So the benefit is that when you get this radiation, it only goes, or mostly only goes, to prostate cells.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you're getting the Xofigo, it goes to anywhere that has calcium. And so you get a lot more radiation than perhaps in places that you don't want, and you also have this risk of it suppressing the bone marrow. Now, the two aren't mutually exclusive, meaning that you could get Xofigo now, and then when PSMA if a PSMA-guided therapy becomes available in the United States, you could get that too later on. Having said that, the question is, do you want to do the Xofigo right now, and what is the benefit, and is there a benefit to keeping it in your hip pocket, especially if you want to use it for palliative purposes. I'm going to have to, I can't turn this off, so just give me 1 second. Just keep talking a moment.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is the call terminated, or did you put everybody on hold?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So, you know, there's going to be a big advantage to waiting. Oh, we were talking about the Xofigo. I know what I wanted to tell you. So, when you use it for palliative purposes, some people in the past have said, well, let's do some now, let's hold on to some later. And that's what Dr. Steve did. He said, okay, I'm going to do 3 now. And then he started, his bone marrow, his CBC started to decline. He said, you know what, I'm not going to do any more now, I'm going to wait. Now, Ron Silverio was with Dr. Antonarakis at Johns Hopkins last week and discussed holding off the balance of his Xofigo treatments. And Antonarakis told him that that's not a good idea because the big benefit comes from treatments 4, 5, and 6.
Aha.
So Antonarakis doesn't think it's a great idea to split the treatments. It's not something that I really I can even speak to because I don't have enough knowledge. It is something that I could probably follow through with Bayer because I know the right connections to Bayer to ask them what they feel. But we do know that when it was tested, it wasn't tested by splitting. It was tested all in one go.
Yeah.
So, people that split it say, okay, well, maybe, why wouldn't it work on a split basis? I don't think it would. So I think that if you're going in for Xofigo, you've got to be prepared to do all 6 treatments.
Okay.
I think you have to decide with, what's Christian's last name? Thomas, is it? Dr. Thomas, is it?
Christian Thomas, right.
There you go. I think you've got to decide with Dr. Thomas what he thinks is right. I mean, if your PSA is stable, that's really good. How are you doing with your neuropathy and your inguinal pain, the hernia pain?
The inguinal pain is still there. It's about the same. It's been checked from one end to the other, and there is no inguinal hernia.
Right.
But there is a difference between the right and the left side.
Okay.
As far as the peripheral neuropathy, still got it. I've been doing some manual things like knitting, and not sure if that's helping or not. Picking things up is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm on gabapentin now, and we'll see if over a period of time that'll work. So that's where that is. As far as the hematocrit and hemoglobin, my wife and I have talked about it, and we've decided let's push the protein a little bit harder. So we'll double the number of eggs and stuff like that, and a little bit more meat at noon, a little bit more meat.
New pillows.
Excuse me? A little more meat at dinner, and we're going with that as one method of pushing that, and I'm already taking iron, so.
And folic acid.
And folic acid.
Yeah.
So.
I don't, I'm maybe a little, I don't want to say old school because it's really a new school idea, but I don't encourage you to get your protein from necessarily from animal proteins. I mean, by all means, eat your animal proteins, but there's just enough evidence, I feel, that's out there that if you have prostate cancer, you should stay away from animal protein other than fish. So, you know, I always tell people, eat your proteins, especially if you enjoy them. You know, you have a red meat once a week or what have you. But I don't know that there's good evidence to suggest that if you want to build up your proteins, to do it, as far as prostate cancer is concerned, to do it with whether it's the wisest thing to do with animal protein and red meat. Anybody else want to talk about that? Peter, do you want you know a little bit about this one?
Yeah, I take a powdered protein supplement every morning. I mean, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of soy-based and pea protein and hemp protein. You just go to a health food store. There's as many kinds of protein powder as there are toothpaste. You know, it's just lots of them. And some of them, and they have flavored ones, vanilla, chocolate, whatever. And I just mix it with water, with a powdered probiotic every morning, and take that. It provides pretty good. It's quite a few grams of protein. So that's a good way to supplement protein if you don't feel you're getting enough, rather than doubling up, because you don't want to put a lot of weight on. You don't want to you know, add weight by eating too much. But don't get a protein mix that has a lot of sugar in it. You know, check the calories on it too when you buy it. So that's the best way I've found to keep your protein up.
Jeff, have I ever sent you the nutrition and prostate cancer pamphlet from UCSF?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll put it in the. I'll send you the link to it afterwards. I think it's also on our website.
Okay.
I think it's. Let me just look and I'll tell you right now. I think it's linked on our website. I've got to do some work on the resource links on the website. I just haven't done it. I will tell you that the woman that gives these presentations is going to be talking to us in a plenary session later this month. Yes, there's a webinar. I'll send you the book to go with it, but if you look under on the recordings and decks page where we post these sessions, there is a webinar that Greta did for nutrition and prostate cancer. Don't watch it too often because you're probably going to hear it live here again in May. So
okay.
I can't remember when she did it, or July, whenever it is that we've got her. But I would look at that because I think there's going to be some interesting information in there for you in terms of how you decide to boost your protein.
Okay.
One I use has 18 to 25 grams of protein per scoop, which is what I take every morning, and it's only got 100 calories in that, so it's not too bad, and it's a good flavor, and it's called Sun Warrior Blend.
What is it again?
Sun Warrior Blend.
Plant-based protein.
Sun Warrior. Okay. So that's one way to go. So think about that before you start cranking up on your eggs and cheese and red meat.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm willing to listen.
Good. Good. We're willing to give opinions. You know how it is. And you know what they say about opinions, don't you?
Oh yes.
No, okay, we won't go there. This is a family show. Oh. Okay. Eric, I see that you joined us. How are you?
I'm okay. The cardiologist just decided that I'm okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about that, but I had to move a bunch of furniture this weekend.
Yeah.
And I get out of breath, but I just stop for a minute and then go again.
Right.
And I don't know, it seemed to be okay. I did it for 5 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. Lived to tell the tale. So
Wow.
she thought that, as you've said all along, maybe I just need more conditioning.
So what did the cardiologist say? Takes a licking but keeps on ticking?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Also in the same breath, she told me that she was leaving the practice and I was never going to see her again.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Eric?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I liked her. She was okay. But,
okay.
Hello.
Well, it could be. Do you have any sort of exercise equipment at home, like an exercise bike or anything like that?
No, I have a wife in a wheelchair. That's my exercise.
So, the thing is that it is different exercise. And, just to get on that bike for half an hour and, you can put it in front of the TV or read or do whatever you like. You can, even get gizmos. You can put your computer on there. But just to be slowly pedaling may make a difference in terms of your conditioning. I mean, I would talk to the people at UCSF, to Regan or Jane, preferably Regan, about what they think as an idea, given the issues that you have, whether they think that some gentle aerobic conditioning could help you.
Sure.
Look, yesterday night I was with a real dear friend who is in very late stage lung cancer, has late stage lung cancer. And I've literally watched this guy shrink 6 inches over the last year, and he's not in good shape. And I picked him up to take him over to his brother's where we were having our Seder night, which was just around the corner. And I said, Eric, where's your car? And he said, oh, it's in the garage. He said, it's fine. I keep my exercise bike. There's plenty of room for my exercise bike. So he's still getting on his exercise bike, God bless him, and he's still pedaling.
Mm.
And so, I think that even though I know you get a lot of exercise from pushing your wife around, it's different to pushing Gail than it is to really exercise. It's like people who say to me, it's like Frank Kelly always says, well, I used to get enough exercise just from the work I do around here. It's not the same.
Mm.
It's just not
Right.
And maybe
Well, I do have access to the Summit Alpha Bates PT Center, which has a bunch of machines,
perfect.
and I could just go down there and use those.
Perfect, but you've got to do it. And the only reason I say with you, because of the fact that there's issues when you're not in the house, and because Gail, is dependent. If you've got a bike in the house, I mean, you can go on Craigslist and you can probably pick one up. It doesn't have to be a fancy bike. You can probably pick one up for free. Somebody who's chucking one away, and
Mm-hmm.
and stick it in the garage or somewhere and just hop on it and see. If it doesn't make a difference, you'll stick it back on Craigslist and move it on to the next person. But I just, it's just a gut feel, and I would think, you could talk to Agarwal and see what he says, or you could talk to your other person, and you could certainly speak to Regan at, the exercise counselor at UCSF and see what they think. But I would like you to just to consider it. It may make a difference.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I get my PET scan and bone scan next week.
Mm-hmm.
See how that's going.
You do those at Outer Bates, right? Not at UCSF.
No, this is be at UC.
Oh, this
It's
is
part of the
trial.
trial. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Yeah. And what about, how often are you testing your PSA?
Once a month.
Okay. And is
It
it,
went up dramatically again.
I was just going to say, what was the last number?
Well, I had 10.7, and then it went down to 9.8, and now it went to 11.7.
What do I have here? 8. I had you in February. Was it 9.8 in February?
I don't know. It was something like that.
Yeah,
I know that it went down and then it went up.
Yeah, I
don't have it in front of me right now.
Yeah, that's okay. And where's your discussion with them on have they done a sequence on you or not?
Nothing new. Just a foundation one done on my original.
Yeah, but what about a new one?
The doctor in Berkeley ordered it, so I don't know what's happened with that. They took blood, but I haven't seen any results yet.
Yeah, but blood isn't going to do it. You know.
Well, no one's going to want to take something out of my spine.
And that's the only place they can go?
That's the only place I have it.
Okay. All right, fair enough. No, I mean, you know, if it's still only in your spine, then I agree. You can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, after next week, I can tell you if it's anywhere else.
I hope not. Hopefully we'll.
Yeah.
But, you know, and how long ago did you do that?
3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, you should be
Should
about.
have had the results.
Should be about time. So just chase her up. Yeah, just chase her up. But we had an interesting conversation before you came on. You can listen to it later with Peter, because he just got genetic tested, not genomic tested, and came back with a gene that has a mutation common to Lynch syndrome, which is kind of interesting. So that's worth a listen.
Yeah, no, I was listening then. I was on then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to thoughts, questions, ideas, anything to say to anybody else tried gentle exercise and gotten something out of it? With Eric, for Eric?
That's okay. We've got a small group today.
We do. It's a pleasure. I like it because I don't feel.
Rick,
Yes.
Rick, just on that subject, has anybody followed through pretty consistently with the rubber band thing? You know, the thing we came back from PCRI with last year, the exercise regimen.
The man.
Has anybody moved ahead and followed through with that and found good results?
I just enrolled in that.
Hold on a minute. Let's go to Bill Franklin first and then to Jeff Ledoux. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I just enrolled in that, and I finished 1 week, and today was the first workout of the second week. So for me, the beginner level is pretty easy, but I'm going to stick with it just to get myself back in the groove of doing the scheduled workouts and keep, getting back in the groove. I'm interested to see what the intermediate and advanced levels do. The beginner's level is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. So. Jeff?
But I have arthritis.
Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I have arthritis in my right shoulder, and actually doing that side with the band is a little challenging.
You're not watching Phil.
It's pretty good.
Jeff, how did you manage with that?
I went through the whole thing, and I've kind of backed off on that, and what I'm doing is more walking. About 2 weeks, a week and a half ago, I did 5 miles, and followed that up the next day with another 2+. So I'm able to walk. I can do all of that, and just try to keep on keeping on.
Well, the only thing I would say, and it's great, I don't want to discourage you at all from the walking, because it's great exercise, but you need to mix it up with a little weight resistance. It's really important. So it shouldn't be all one or all the other. And if you've got those bands there, don't let them gather dust in the closet. 2 or 3 times a week, pull them out and do your exercises with them.
Okay, I can do that.
Because we know that weight resistance helps you greatly from muscle waste when you're on long-term hormone therapy, and strengthens your bones and does a lot of other kinds of good things. So we always suggest mixing aerobic and weight resistance. So I mean, we've referred over 20 men to the MAN plan, and I actually have a call scheduled with the woman there next week to talk about that. And Eric, what about you signing up for the MAN plan?
Okay. What do I do?
I will send you. I'll send you a note afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
It's very simple. Bill, you want to tell Eric how simple the process is?
Yeah, it's incredibly easy. I just called them on the phone and they just took all my information, and then they send you the stuff in the mail, and when you get it, you go to the website, and in the mail will be your activation code. So just go to the website and activate it, and then from there you can either work out guided by the website or just follow the instructions and the stuff they send you in the mail.
Yeah.
There's no complicated exercise. They're all basic. You know, if you were in a gym and saw someone doing them, you'd know what they were. You know, their shoulder presses, their bicep curls, their tricep extensions. Their later on, I guess there's push-ups, there's ab work, things like that. The beginner level is very, very low key, actually, I thought. But I don't have your condition, so.
Right. So we'll send it to you. I mean, I'll send you we'll send it to you. I'll send you the link for the MAN plan, and basically you just call them up and tell them you're referred by Answer Cancer, and then they'll sign you up, because most of their referrals come through doctors' offices, but we have a deal with them where anybody attending this call can sign on if they're if they need to. So, but I'll send it to you, Eric, and so you'll see it. But again, you know, it's not going to hurt, and maybe it'll help.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else about exercise anybody want to talk about right now?
I'd like to just mention that, I don't know, have you talked to Frank Kelly in the last couple of days? He showed up at the end of our call yesterday.
Right.
And he did not sound good. He said he had something else going on today. The doctor's appointment or something he wouldn't be able to make today. But he was struggling. He was having trouble. I can't remember if he couldn't hold down food or what was going on. But he didn't sound good.
Okay. No, I haven't.
We should check in with him.
All right. I will try to do that.
The other one I want to mention is, and I don't want to do this. I want to do this in a general way. Well, you know, one of our guys that I work with stopped taking his medication because he was having such a struggle with it. He found himself in the ER with vomiting and stuff, and he's dealing with neuropathy. So his solution was to just stop taking. He's on Xtandi, and he's decided to stop taking it for now. We don't have an appointment with his oncologist for a couple of weeks. I'm okay with it. I mean, it's his decision. He feels a lot better. But I guess it's a topic for discussion. When you have advanced disease and you're not having fun with a good quality of life, you know, what are the repercussions of just stopping your medication? I mean, I know ultimately what the repercussions could be, but interimly, I'm just wondering if anybody's had experience with that, you know, just kind of getting tired of it and don't want to deal with it, and just stopping it for now. So I just wanted to throw that one out. I'm sure we've run into people like that.
Yeah.
How long had he been on Xtandi, Peter?
Not that long, I think a few months.
Huh. You said it was making him sick, making him throw up, or what?
Yeah, it was, and the neuropathy and the nausea he was getting. So anyway, just
You're not talking about Mike, are you?
I have a hard time talking about people's situation when they're not on the call. I don't like to do that, but I just want to throw that one in terms of just a general thing of, you know, how to deal with guys that, you know, decide they, you know, just need a break. Don't want to take this stuff for now.
No.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, my own input would be that when you've got advanced disease, that sort of decision should be made in conjunction with your medical team, and not to work unilaterally. If you've got a decent doctor, they're going to respond to you. If you're feeling really rough and crummy and you think it's attributable to the medicine you're taking, you need to discuss it with your doctor, and not just do what you think might help you, because it's not always, you know, we don't always know all of the ramifications. So I would always say to somebody, if I was navigating them, let your doctor know right away. You know,
I think he might have done that. He might have called up, but we haven't had an appointment yet. I mean, a second appointment yet, and that won't be for 3 weeks.
well,
2 weeks.
but if he called the doc and the doc said, yeah, stop it, then I think that's fine. If he didn't call the doc and just decided to stop it, that's, to me, a different ballgame.
Okay, I'll check in on that and make sure I get the information right.
Yeah. I mean, anyone else either been in that situation or have thoughts on that situation?
No, I haven't personally, but it got my attention when he said he was on Xtandi and having, you know, throwing up and in the hospital and everything. Of course, that grabbed my attention right away. So far, I haven't had any bad side effects. And I agree with you, Rick. I would certainly make sure the doctor knows what I'm doing, and before I just stop something.
You know, some people just respond badly to whatever medicine they're taking. I think of Hollis, God rest his soul, Hollis Klein, who couldn't take any drug without having significant side effects. And there are some men on this call who have a great deal of problems, taking anything. So I would have to say that just because he had the problem doesn't necessarily mean it's something you're going to be faced with, Jake. You may tolerate the medicine a heck of a lot better. So,
well, I'm going to try to stick it out as long as I can, because, you know, so far it's working. So,
okay.
I feel for anybody who has side effects, though, for sure.
So I see that Ken Anderson has joined us. I don't see his voice. I don't see his microphone activated yet. Now I see his microphone activated, and we're anxious to get an update. And Jake, I haven't forgotten you and the USPSTF, but I want to leave that to the end, depending on how much time we have, because it's a good discussion, and I want to encourage everybody to respond to it. But I want to make sure that we're talking to people that have issues that they want to raise in the call first. Okay.
We also have a caller on the phone.
We do.
Caller 4.
Yes.
Hi, this is Tebow.
Tebow. Hello, Tebow. How are you?
How's it going?
Good, good, good. We always like to hear you. So we've got 2 people. Tebow, did you have anything that you wanted to raise in particular tonight?
No, not really.
Okay. So keep listening. If you missed the beginning, again, I would encourage you to listen to the beginning later on the recording where we talked to Peter about his genetic test that came back. This is a genetic, not a genomic test that came back, indicating that he had a propensity for Lynch syndrome. And it's just interesting. It's something that men with advanced disease just ought to be aware of. And if I'm not mistaken, aren't you waiting, or was it you, or was it somebody else at Hopkins who was waiting for a genomic test to come back?
No, I think I'm going to do this bone marrow transplant, assuming we can find a match. I got approval from my insurance company. Now we're just doing some paperwork before we start testing the potential matches.
I still would love for you to talk to your doc about getting yourself sequenced, because there may be something that's less risky that might be more accessible. So that's why I know who it was that got sequenced. It was Ron Silverio that they're waiting for the test to come back from Hopkins on getting sequenced. They're doing it internally and not sending it to Foundation Medicine. But let's let me touch base in with you again on the bone marrow before we close. But I want to talk to Ken Anderson. Ken, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Fill us in on where you are, and have you started your chemo? What's going on?
Well, I think the last time I was on, I had made a comment that I was starting on Friday. I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday that I was on last. And, of course, Wednesday I came down with a shingle.
Oh, no.
So it delayed it. I went in the same day that I felt something abnormal going on. And it came on my scalp, started, then it went down the side of my face. So I went in and got steroids, and they cleaned it up. It cleaned it up after about a week, so I delayed chemo for 1 week, and I started last Friday. So, at the moment, I'd say I'm doing okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go on Friday and get blood work done. I had blood work done on last Friday prior to chemo starting, and luckily the PSA had dropped after another 15, 20 days to 3.5 from 52. But still, I just 1 round of chemo. So at the moment I'm at 3.5. Had the first round of chemo. Felt a little strange the first day, but not too much other than maybe a little bit of being tired.
Mm-hmm.
So next round is in 3 weeks.
Okay, so you started the chemo 7th of April, and first of all, I want to tell you that the fact that your PSA is responding to the hormone therapy is really good.
Right.
I don't know if the doctors have told you that, but it's a good sign.
No, not because, of course, I haven't had a chance. I sent it off to Paul Korn at MD Anderson, and he hasn't replied back yet. I sent it off yesterday evening, so I'm sure he will today.
So I think that's a really good sign. And is he working with your local oncologist with respect to the chemo?
it's kind of a touchy subject, I think, with the doctor here. You know, I think it's touchy whenever a doctor is administering any medication. They're the doctor in charge. So, but I'm okay either way. I mean, I'm sending the stuff to Paul Korn, so I don't think it matters that much to me. I mean, I know go see Paul Korn after the 3rd round of chemo and get not blood work, but a CT scan and a bone scan. So I'm going to do those at MD Anderson in Houston. So, and the doctor knows that. So I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay. Jeff Ledoux, I'm going to ask you first because you went through. When did you go through your chemo? In 2014, did you say, Jeff?
I went from November 2014, November 10th to April 1st. They delayed me 1 week because they were doing some radiation on my hips and femurs, and they didn't want to put the chemo right on top of that. It would have increased the effectiveness of the radiation by tenfold.
Right. So I'm going to ask, we've got 3 guys, and I know I'm sort of familiar with, I think, what we're going to hear. But Jeff, do you have any thoughts or ideas or recommendations for Ken, given that he's just been through one so far?
Well, I went through it every 3 weeks, with the exception of that March 17th, which was delayed a week. And I was fortunate that I didn't have a lot of problems with the chemo. The Neulasta, on the other hand, laid me low. I wound up with thrush more than once, and I wound up at the end of it with pneumonia. But it wasn't bad, took care of itself, and I went through it all right. Other than the problems with the Neulasta, I didn't have any problems with the chemo per se.
Did they give you a shot of Neulasta afterwards, Ken, or not?
The day after. The day after, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, Ken, did they give you Neulasta?
They did not.
They did not.
What is Neulasta?
It's a booster.
That is, it's an immunology booster.
It's a booster to your blood counts, so
yep.
So that you don't lose too much in your immune system whilst you're going through chemo. Some people do it automatically. Some people, some docs don't do it at all.
Probably why I'm going on Friday to get a blood work done on Friday to see what's going on.
Okay. Dennis, how about you? What words of wisdom do you have for Ken?
Well, I got similar chemo, and I got the Neulasta. I was partway through. I can't remember exactly when they started giving me that. I did start the Lupron and the chemo at the same time. And I had an episode where my white blood cell count went way low, and I started a fever, and I called, and they put me in the ER. And then after that, they started me on both a reduced chemo dose and the Neulasta the day after shot, which I go in for the rest of my. And I had, when I was in the hospital, they found I had multiple blood clots in both lungs and pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there 5 days, and when I came out, then I had to go on an injection for a blood thinner. Let's see, what was the name of that? Blood thinner was Levinox.
Right.
It's an injection into the abdomen.
Right.
And I had to stay on that until they could find the way he described it, like a residue in my blood. tests and my routine blood checks. And so he said it was going to it would be a long time. He thought I'd be on it, but I actually got off of it fairly quickly because the blood test showed that the blood clots were no longer, there was no residue from the blood clots present in my blood test.
But you had a problem immediately after the first session, right?
No, it was after, I think about 3 sessions. Three or four sessions, yeah.
And how did you feel after the first session compared to, say, the second session and the third session?
It got a little progressively more difficult to deal with, mostly from feeling a weak and tiredness about at the low point, which was, I think, between the 5 and 10 day after the infusion, is when I'd have my lowest points. The day after shot seemed to help with that to some extent. But the feeling, a taste in my mouth of the metal taste and food's not tasting good and that kind of stuff kind of got worse as it went on. And then, of course, all that stuff goes away once you stop.
Right.
So it's just, yeah, it did get a little more progressive after successive treatments.
Go ahead.
But, you know, nothing that was unbearable. After I got out of the hospital, the 5 days in the hospital, and I started to improve. And I had a little swelling in my lower legs, and we managed that and got through that.
Okay, Ken, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for everyone. Is there, and do you guys see any problem? I mean, I'm tending to think that I want to try to power through some of that treatment, meaning that I went hiking twice, 2 pretty strenuous hikes after the treatment. And in my head, I think I want to try to continue, no matter how I feel, continue and do that. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
I think your body's going to tell you.
Yes, I think that's
what you can endure and what you can't.
Right.
Are you getting the steroid the day before, the day of, and the day after?
What would it be called?
Oh, just a second. Okay.
Either prednisone or dexamethasone.
Dexamethasone, that's right. Dexamethasone, I get a pill to take the day before, and then when I go in for the infusion, part of the infusion was the same thing, the dexamethasone in there, and then another pill after. And that helps you feel pretty good the first couple of days after. Dexamethasone, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm taking
it makes you feel pretty good because of the steroids, and when the steroid wears off, that's when you start to have, you know, the issues, maybe a little leg cramping and stuff like that.
So I am taking the prednisone, but it's not like a day before or a day after. I'm taking one every day.
Right. So this is, you know, there are different ways to go. Some people prescribe the prednisone right the way through. Some people prescribe dexamethasone the day before. They give you an infusion the day of, and then you take it the following day, and no prednisone. And some people do both. I think the amounts that they give you are differing. So your guy might be just have you on a steady diet of prednisone, and you may just get 1 shot of dexamethasone you don't even know about, whilst as one of the pre-meds to the chemo. I mean, you can ask him; he'll tell you. I think that Dennis's point is a good one. I mean, even if you get a little dexamethasone, it tends to make you feel really good for a couple of days, and then it wears off. You know, people have always said to me they do pretty good around the 5 days that they get the infusion because of the steroids, and then they have 5 to 7 days that they feel really crummy, and then they have another 10 days or so where they feel pretty good before the cycle starts again. But the one thing I would, that you've heard now from a couple of different people, I would definitely be talking to him about keeping your immune system boosted, because if you don't, then you run the risk of what happened to Dennis, where they didn't give it to him early enough, and then he got an infection, and he got complications from the infection. And I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened, but maybe it might not have happened if they would have been boosting his immune system from the get-go, which some doctors do, like they did with Jeff.
Well, I'll ask him about it.
The other thing that I did that helped was the exercise. I'd start to exercise maybe about the week before my next infusion was due, because that's when I felt like I could do the exercise. And I think that kind of helped me feel better, at least through the infusion, you know, for another 5 days after or so. It was sort of a gradual decline. It wasn't a sudden thing that all of a sudden, you know, you really feel it all at once.
You know,
Also,
go ahead, go ahead, Jeff.
During the time that I was doing the chemo, I did a lot of walking, because up here in Maine, once winter hit, you don't do a lot other than snow blowing, which I did anyway. But there was my exercise doing that. Walking was about the only thing I could do. I did go over to the fitness center and work out there, riding a bike and stuff like that. But I did it all the way through, and nothing seemed to slow me down very much, except, like I said, I had to battle with thrush a couple of times. I had flu-like symptoms once or twice, and then at the end I had the pneumonia. But even that didn't slow me down. I stayed active. So I don't know. I hear these people talking about all the fatigue and everything else that they felt. I didn't experience that. I don't know why. Plus, I had a very good response to the chemo and the androgen deprivation therapy that I was on.
Well, there's a good webinar that's listed on our website, Ken, under the recorded calls, the same place where you'd go to listen to a call that you've missed. It's the first one under complementary medicine. It's called Exercising with Cancer, Why and How It Helps. And Donald Abrams is the guy that's sort of the key person. He's a medical oncologist. He's an integrative medical oncologist at UCSF. He's also the chief oncologist at San Francisco General. And he feels very strongly that it's important to exercise to the best you possibly can during your chemo. And you might want to listen to him. And, you know, I tend to agree with what's been said. Do what you can. Let your body tell you. At some point, if you just don't feel like doing it at all, and you maybe can get yourself out for a 10 or 15-minute walk, do it. You know, because we do know the exercise helps. I've known enough people on chemo that have resisted going out for a walk, and then they do it, and they come back, and they tell me how much better they feel. So right now, you're in great shape, and I would say you have the right attitude, and just, you know, keep doing it for as long as you can.
All right.
So
Yeah, I don't have any other comments.
Okay. And I didn't touch base with Eric, because I know Eric had a really rough time with his chemo. But I think in the spirit of giving equal time to everybody, Eric, you should also have your say.
Well, I mean, I've kind of gone through it before. You want me to do it again?
I don't know if Ken's heard it. You can give us the short version.
Okay. Well, I
don't want to hear it if it was really bad.
Okay, then don't give
Okay.
us the version.
I won't tell you then.
Yeah, I understand the bad can be bad, and I've read a lot about it, so it's okay. I don't need to get it. I'm sorry, but I'd rather take my chances and have what comes, and then I'll just deal with it.
Okay. I don't want anybody suggesting we're biasing these calls, Ken. That's all.
Oh, I understand.
To encourage people to do chemo, so we try to be fair. And
Well, I have to tell you, I'm really close to not going.
Okay. Well, we want you to go. Okay. Tebow's left us.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Because something Ken mentioned that sparked something in me. When he talked about coming down with shingles, I came down with shingles too. And I think it's pretty common for those of us when you get diagnosed, and start any kind of treatment, that your immune system starts getting suppressed, and your anxiety and your stress levels start going up. And I've heard of other guys getting shingles. I've heard of guys getting pneumonia and this and that. And it's probably important right on, as soon as you get diagnosed, to go ahead and get things like shingles shots and pneumonia shots and flu shots to try to build up immunity so this doesn't grab you later on, because it's pretty common. Anyway, I'm just talking out of my hat here.
Do they give shingle shots after you started chemo?
I don't know, but I'm thinking, it should be something maybe our GPs should stress as soon as we're diagnosed, before we even start much treatment of anything.
Oh.
If we're headed to treatment, why not, build up some guards against some of this stuff so it doesn't bite us.
Right. Well, luckily it wasn't the case wasn't too bad. It cleared up after 5-6 days.
That's good.
So, anyway.
But
you're right. The stress level is quite high, and I'm sure that's what brought it on.
Well, our thoughts are with you, and just keep us posted how you're doing, and if you've got issues with during the chemo, you want some feedback, and I can put you in touch with people that have dealt with similar issues. Just let me know, and we're here to support you.
Will do.
You're on the road.
No, I'm on the journey, that's for sure.
You are on the journey. Somebody just came in. Who just called in just now?
Paul Hobson from Melbourne, Australia.
Hello, Paul Hobson. Okay. Well, we were going to talk about this new recommendation that's come out on PSA testing, but you preempt that and tell us how you're doing.
Oh, at the moment, I've had 3 treatments of the lutetium. In about 4 weeks, I'm due to have the 4th and final one. I'm getting a mixed reaction showing up on the scans. Some lesions are shrinking considerably. Other lesions, there are new lesions coming. So I'm in the middle range of all of this. Some people who have very good recovery. There are other people who don't get any benefit from the treatment at all. I'm getting benefit in that it's stopping bone pain and it's slowing down progression, but I'm still getting some new lesions.
And what are your docs saying?
Well, they're saying that. That's the report from them. I'm getting a benefit. They'll keep going with the final treatment. But, it's been good whilst I'm on it. It's an excellent treatment, but once I finish the lutetium trial, I'm just about out of treatments.
Well, yes and no, because of course, and I realize that that you're in Australia, so it makes it difficult. But have you haven't been sequenced? You haven't had your tumor sequenced yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
So there are two issues to that. One is getting your tumor sequenced so that we know what's actionable, and then the other is accessing the drug that's actionable, of which in Australia is a lot harder than it is here. But we do know that there are significant benefits and that some of these drugs do work.
Yeah, but the problem in Australia is most of these drugs are only available on clinical trial. And the problem for me now that I've had this spinal cord compression and loss of mobility is that I no longer satisfy the ECOG requirements for the clinical trials. My disability pretty much precludes me from these things.
Well, maybe, but maybe not when it comes to some of these fancy drugs. Because we just don't know, I mean, with these fancy drugs, maybe the trial requirements are different. They're not necessarily prostate cancer trials. They're bucket trials. Anybody that has a mutated gene.
Yeah, quite a lot of them just have as a requirement of functionality test, and being a cripple now, I fail that functionality test. Instead of being ECOG 0 or 1, I'm ECOG 3. Yeah, look, understand what you say, hear what you say. I'm waiting till I get through the next lutetium thing before looking at plan B, C or D.
How's your living situation?
Oh, crap.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, I'm in a nursing home, which is not very satisfactory.
Right. Are you able now to get out at all? I know you were hoping when you got your scooter to be able to move out of the environment a little bit.
Yes, I am able to get out of the environment, but it's quite exhausting to be in the scooter for 3 or 4 hours. It's quite tiring. I've managed to, I'm getting out regularly once a week to the local bridge club, and I think this week we'll be upping it to 2 times a week. So hopefully the bridge will get better.
I hope so. As I used to say to the elderly lady that lived down beneath me before she went off to her bridge, 7 no Trump. Okay. Jeff, you should know that Paul is doing the lutetium treatment that uses PSMA as the target. We were talking earlier on, Paul, about Xofigo, radium-223, and lutetium as the option that's being trialed right now.
I have seen a little bit about that.
Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Paul.
What's the question?
Well, not a question, just an observation. I think that Jeff was thinking about, should he look at Xofigo right now? Should he wait? And I was just telling him that, within 12 to 24 months, there's a possibility that the lutetium could be available in the United States as well, and that there are some people on our call who have tried that treatment.
Well, I've found the lutetium, unlike chemo, it's very targeted, so relatively few side effects. it's having a benefit. It's got me quite a number of months that I wouldn't have got otherwise. At the moment, though, the Australian trial, they've only got a group on this trial of 30 people, so it's still very early days. They don't know why people are reacting the way that they're reacting or not reacting. They're going to, later in 2017, run a multi-site trial in Australia and possibly elsewhere of lutetium, but it's early days, but it's showing great promise.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions? Anything else they'd like to say to Paul?
Paul, do you get regular physical therapy like every day or every other day or anything?
Regular what?
Physical therapy. Does Australia give you that benefit to have a therapist work with you?
Only a limited benefit which I'm getting, and I'm also getting a private physio, but yes, I'm getting that.
Good. That's good.
Thanks for that suggestion.
So we've got just a few minutes left. We're just pleased to hear your voice, Paul, and I'm glad you were able to join us today. We've just got a few minutes left, so Jake wanted to raise the new USPSTF recommendation that came out, I think, this morning. I actually had a heads up because somebody at PBS NewsHour asked to talk to me last week, and I spent about 40 minutes on the phone with them discussing this. Although I didn't have all of the details, there was sort of an embargo on the information, but now I see it. Did you want to talk about it? I don't want to steal your thunder, Jake.
No, I can. Probably most people have seen the emails anyway. MailCare sent something out. US2 Inspire sent something out. But essentially, USPSTF has modified its recommendations from before, where they said PSA testing was not essential for anybody and had caused more harm than good. They, based on comments from people like us, they have modified it to where now they're saying men 55 to 69 can get it if they want it. So you won't have it quite as hard of a time, asking your doctor for the test now. But they still say that men age 70 years and older the benefits do not outweigh the benefits do not outweigh the harm, and still say you should not be screened. And as Rick has pointed out before, 70 is the new 80, or 80 is the new 70, or however that goes. 70 is still essentially a young man, and they are asking for more input. The email does give a link where you can post your comments, and I just wanted to point out that for those of us who did comment before, it did have an effect. Maybe we can still convince them to open it up to men 70 and over.
Yeah, thank you for summarizing that. I'm trying to see if I can find the link here to the questions, but if you go, I will be putting it in a letter anyway.
Rick?
Yes.
Just a thought. If I had not been tested when I was 71, as of right now, I'd probably be dead.
Okay. And I think,
exactly.
and frankly, I think that is what we need people like you to to say to the task force, because if they don't hear it from you, then you know they're just not paying attention. You know, it is a really big issue. I'm just looking for the like I say, I'm looking for the here we go, comment on these materials. So here is I'll put this in the chat window for those of you who are online. If you go to USPSTF and you'll find it. If you don't find it, come back to me and I'll be putting it in. I mean, my two questions are why 55? They don't really say anywhere why they picked that 55 arbitrary number. The other thing is that I do think that the upper limit should be based on life expectancy and not on an absolute age. You know, if a man's got a life expectancy more than a certain amount, I don't know, I'm not going to say what those years are, but if a man has a life expectancy more than a certain amount, they should be tested. I mean, to write off all men age 70 and older is criminal in my opinion, and we've talked about that on this call before.
I agree. And if, you know, if they hadn't started testing, my doctor started testing me when I was 50. She did it once a year. And, you know, in those days, you know, it was still covered by my insurance. But had, like with Jeff, had she not started doing that at age 50 and watching the rise over a period of 5 or 6 years, I too would be dead now. So I agree with you, Rick, that 55 is an arbitrary number. I think it should go back to what it was originally, which is basically start checking men at 50. Get a baseline of 40, perhaps, but definitely start checking men at 50. It's not that expensive. You know, the insurance companies, of course, they're going to use every excuse they can to avoid giving a test or paying for a test if they don't have to, and that's why this recommendation is so important. If the USPSTF says it's not recommended, then the insurance company can deny it, and that's where the danger arises.
Well, I don't think it needs to come from me, but I'm really hopeful that the chair of this USPSTF group, who happens to be a professor at UCSF, sits down with Matt Cooperberg and gets an earful from him. I think that, I mean, I probably will send Matt just a personal note and ask if he's on the case, but I'm almost certain he is. I think there's a lot of doctors at UCSF who are not going to be very happy with this, but at the same time, it's better than it was, but it's not good enough. It's
not good enough, correct.
It's just not good enough, and I think it's up to us to let them know, and so just take a couple of minutes of your time and submit the submit your comments.
Rick, before you go, the early bird does not get the worm. Len just joined us.
Well, I was actually...
And I told him last night it was 6 o'clock. So he has no excuse.
I was right on time for that meeting last night.
Len, don't tell me you thought this was a 5 o'clock meeting. Did you?
No. I knew the correct time,
okay.
But I'm selling my house, and I had some guys come over to give me estimates on some work.
Okay, then we forgive you. Then,
well, thank you.
Then you're 1,000% forgiven. You want to add your 2 cents about the USPSTF recommendation?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction, but I also believe, you know, like why would they stop screening at 70? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. it should still be patient's choice.
We're all agreed.
I was wondering, did you guys discuss Lupron Jim?
No, I meant to do that, and it went through my mind. Peter came in with something that was on his mind, and then I lost it. And I know that both you and Peter wanted to say something about that. So let's just close out with just remembering Lupron Jim. I mean, I'll start off just by saying that Jim Crotty was a guy that we started helping on the Reluctant Brotherhood from right around the time he was diagnosed in 2013. He used to participate in these calls pretty regularly when we were just using the telephone. And he was always anxious to meet other people, even though he lived in in Florida, in the middle of nowhere, Inverness, I think, or somewhere like that.
Yeah, Inverness.
He would get over to the West Coast because he had a daughter in San Jose, and then he made a big point of meeting me and Jerry, God rest his soul, and a couple of other people. That when he was out here, he tried to help Eric Winter. He stopped off to see Eric Winter early days in Chicago, and I know that he was very active in the group that meets on the East Coast. There's a regular group that has I don't want to say a reunion, a meeting every year, and he was active in that. And you know, he took very positive and aggressive steps to fight his cancer. The sad part was he did a great job, but he wasn't expecting to get nailed with melanoma, and it seemed to come very quickly, and it took him very quickly. So, you know, I say, may his memory be a blessing, and may God rest his soul.
Amen.
Amen, Rick. Very well said. Yeah, the only thing I would add is that I always enjoyed talking to Jim. He counseled me when I was seeking out radiation options, as you and Dom did as well, of course. And he encouraged me to call Chris King out in UCLA, which I did, who although Jim had SBRT, Chris King advised me to get IMRT. But anyway, the point is, Jim, I always enjoyed talking with him and corresponding with him. He had a great sense of humor. And as a matter of fact, if I could just take a few seconds here to read one of his last communications with me. He says, I seem to always excel on the severity of my cancer. First Gleason 9, and now this, referring to this aggressive form of melanoma he had. He says, but fortunate in how I respond to treatment. So originally they did think that they had surgically removed all of the melanoma, which was around the elbow in his arm, but obviously it came back. And he was a horrible typist, I have to admit. Sometimes I had difficulty, he makes so many typos. It's difficult to understand what he was trying to say. But very nice guy, always willing to help. I'll miss him.
One of the things that he did, which I don't know I've known anybody else do, is he deliberately went off a treatment to force his 3 successive rises in his PSA.
Yes.
And then he got the dendrion people to give him a supplement, to give him to subsidize him so that he could fly to get his treatment from somewhere, because he couldn't get it anywhere in Inverness. So they would fly him out to wherever the spot was. I can't remember, to get his treatment. And but you know, he did what he needed to do. Peter, go ahead. I know you wanted to say something.
Well, I don't have too much to add. I think the thing that stands out to me is the only person I know that actually changed his email handle. I think it went from Lupron Jim to no more Lupron. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more Lupron for me.
Yeah, no more Lupron for me. That's it. Yeah, from Lupron Jim. So, he had a sense of humor about it and participated and was eager to offer his advice and experience and so forth. even though he wasn't, he wasn't on the phone when I was on the phone very much, and a few times he was. He was a good brother, and I appreciated his input. He was always there for anybody reaching out. It was great quality. Sad to lose everybody in this game.
And I know I want to thank Peter that he made a small donation in Jim's name. Did you want to mention that? I know you said something to me about that.
Yeah, I'm going to resend out my letter. I'm going to tweak it a little bit that I sent out last year. Just in something that just came to me last year when we were in California and talking about organization and fundraising and so forth. It just, I just made a personal pledge for myself to, anytime I heard about someone in our brotherhood passing away, whether they were close or distant or to me or whatever, to remember them just by making a donation to our Answer Cancer Foundation, and because that's what we're about. We're about supporting each other and finding ways to increase that support and reach out to more. So that's my personal pledge, and I'll retweet my letter and send it out shortly to others, and maybe in their own way people can find ways to
Len,
to build support.
Len, if you could possibly track down a picture of Jim and send it to me, that would be really helpful, because I'd like to add him on the in memoriam page.
Sure. I have one in mind that I know I have access to.
Okay, that'd be terrific. And if
it's not a clear picture, but it's it's decent.
That's great. So if you well,
Len, if you would send it to me too, and I'll put it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Okay, Jay.
Okay, Len. Thank you.
All right, guys. Look, for a small group that we didn't know what we were going to talk about, guess what? It's 8 minutes past 5 here. 8 minutes past 8 back east. So we managed to fill the time again, and I think that anybody listening to this is going to find a bunch of worthwhile information in here as usual. So thanks a lot. We'll be back on Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock local here for me. And I wish you all a very happy Easter. And for those of you celebrating Passover, I wish you a Hag Sameach V'Kasha. And that's it. We'll talk to you next week.
And maybe I'll
Thank
have
you, Rick.
something decent to report.
Hope so.
Good night, everybody.
Hey.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.